This presentation will outline the system parameters that can be programmed in the setup menu on the Proteus controller. The main menu will be your starting point in the programming process. Pressing on the Utilities button will bring you to the following page. Pressing on the Setup Menu Option button will bring you to the following page. A password is required to enter setup. The factory default is 6 zeros, but it may have been changed. Type in the password and press enter. The setup menu will appear and provide access to various system parameters. The down arrow will bring you to page 2. Depending on the number of changes you expect to program, it may be advisable to back up the current parameters should you need to restore them due to a programming error. These will be explained later in this presentation. Some notes about the setup menu. Some parameters are direct programming fields, meaning no undo option. Other options require you to press a save button. Some of the options that are the same in color are linked together and can be switched inside that category without having to return to the setup menu by using the next page button. In each option, the setup button will bring you back to the setup page. The return arrow will bring you back to the previous page you were in. Pressing on the System Units button will bring you to the following page. Pressing on the Change Date View button will toggle the date format seen on the top left side of the screen. Pressing on any one of the unit of measurement fields will bring you to the following page. The 3 unit of measurement increments are displayed on the bottom of the screen. Pressing on the US or metric button will change all 3 measurements to the standard increment of that type. You can change the individual measurement, volume, level, and temperature to change only those measurements. An example, gallons to barrels. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. The return arrow will bring you back to the previous page. Use the Next Page button to advance to printer settings. The print header lines 1 through 4 are used to enter site information that will print out on each report for identification purposes. Pressing on any one of those fields will bring up a QWERTY keypad for data entry. This screen also allows you to set the direction of the printout to either the internal printer or a network printer by setting the TCP/IP address and port number. Please note, only one printer option can be selected at a time. Use the Next Page button to advance to shift time settings. A maximum of 4 shifts can be programmed. The number of shifts will determine the number of shift end time fields that are available. Only the shift end time, programmed as the end time of one shift, is used as the start time for the immediate next shift. Programmed shifts record the tank's starting and ending inventory data for all active tanks for each shift programmed. Pressing on the Number of Shifts field will bring up a numeric keypad for data entry. Pressing on the Auto Print field will either enable or disable the auto print function that is performed at the end of each shift. Pressing on the Shift field will bring up a plus or minus option to change the time. Press Set to save. Use the Next Page button to advance to Miscellaneous settings. Each field, under Miscellaneous settings, will either bring up a numeric keypad for data entry or toggle between available options. Remote Horn Timeout sets the time the remote annunciator horn will sound without the need for pressing the Silence button. Remote Horn Timeout Enable turns on or off the timeout feature just described. Remote Re-Alarm Time is the amount of time before re-sounding the horn after it is silenced and the alarm is still active. Ullage Percentage. This is the empty space between the current product level and a set maximum capacity. It can only be set between 80 and 100%. The ullage appears on the inventory printout and display. Setup Password allows a new setup menu password to be set. For all auto print functions, they can be either enabled or disabled independently. Press on the Miscellaneous Page 2 button. Delivery Page Change automatically wakes up the display and shows a tank with a delivery in progress. Backlight Timeout, the amount of inactivity time before dimming the display. Home Screen chooses which page you would like to set as the home screen. Home screen options are System Status, 4 Tank Inventory, 1 Tank Inventory, Zoom Inventory, and CLD Testing. Home screen tank number. If a single tank or zoom inventory page is chosen, this will select which tank is displayed. CLD testing can only be used if the controller is programmed with the correct firmware. Door ajar horn. This is new to the Proteus and is used when the controller is in an enclosure and a magnetic switch is connected to one of the selectable inputs. The system will chirp if the door is left open. Available options are off, MCU input 2, 4IO input 1, 4IO input 2, 4IO input 3, or 4IO input 4. Pressing on the I button will bring you to the following page. This page will display and explain what each parameter does within miscellaneous settings. Press anywhere on the screen to return to the miscellaneous page 2. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. System units, printer settings, shift time settings, and miscellaneous settings are all part of one category and can be accessed directly from the Setup menu page. In many cases, tank data is factory programmed based on specifications provided. If you are working with a new and unprogrammed system, you should gather all the data you will need in advance. Checking these parameters may be required when troubleshooting probe issues. Pressing on any parameter field will bring up a QWERTY or numeric keypad for data entry or option selection. Please note, parameters must be set for each tank individually. Pressing on the tank parameter button will bring you to the following page. Please be aware that if you enter any tank options from the Setup menu page, Tank 1 will be selected. Pressing the Next Tank button will advance to the next tank on the same sub-menu page. You can quickly jump to another tank by pressing on the tank number field. This will bring up a numeric keypad to change tanks. Product type will bring up a QWERTY keypad and is used to label the tank as required. An example, diesel. Product and water null. This is used to calibrate the float position on the probe. Actual stick measurements will be required. It will bring up an entry screen showing the current product or water height. Enter the actual stick value. Enable/disable. This is used to enable or disable the corresponding tank. Tank capacity, tank diameter, probe length, wire speed, and probe type are all information from data collected. Pressing these buttons will bring up a numeric keypad. Volume offset is rarely used but can be used to further calibrate tank volume. Consult OMTEC's technical support. Pressing on the volume correction button will bring you to the following page. Pressing the desired correction method button will change the correction method field accordingly. The options are coefficient thermal expansion, API gravity, relative density, or density. The data format shown next to each correction method provides how each measurement should be entered into the coefficient, gravity, or density field. Water volume can be removed from the temperature compensated, or TC volume, if required, by pressing the checkmark box to enable. The checkmark box will appear green. Use the return arrow to bring you back to the previous page. Use the Next Page button to advance to tank alarms and set points for the current tank you are programming. All options will bring up a numeric keypad for data entry. High product, overfill, high warning, low product, and delivery needed are all percentages of the total tank capacity. High water is the measurement, in inches, from the bottom of the tank at which the water float will trigger an alarm. Sudden loss is an alarm point, in gallons, used for VLD testing. Probe temp high and low are alarm points for the probe's average temperature. Use the Next Page button to advance to tank chart points for the current tank you are programming. All options will bring up a numeric keypad for data entry. Chart points are based on the type of tank being used. Linear, vertical tanks are such that every 1 inch is equal in volume. Therefore 2 chart points are set. Non-linear, horizontal tanks vary in volume. As these settings are critical to accurate reporting of the product level, OMTEC's recommendation on these tanks are a minimum of 20 chart points. To calculate the chart increment, divide the tank diameter by the number of chart points you want. Enter that number into the chart increment field. This will create the required number of level fields. The first level will be the chart increment. Each additional field will increase by the chart increment. Enter the corresponding volumes from the manufacturer's strapping chart for each chart level. Use the up and down arrows to program the additional chart points. Use the Next Page button to advance to tank drop and other for the current tank you are programming. The options will bring up either a numeric keypad for data entry or prompt for a yes or no response. Drop threshold is the volume amount needed to initiate a delivery in progress. Drop dwell time is the time delayed after a drop is completed before generating the drop report. Product code is a user number that identifies the product. Tank tilt is used when tanks may not be level. Refer to the programming manual for the formula to calculate the tank tilt. Zero product null is used to reset the product null to the factory default of 1. You will be prompted to confirm selection. Zero water null is used to reset the water null to the factory default of 1.57. You will be prompted to confirm selection. Increment factor requires a password. Consult OMTEX technical support. Pressing the temperature thermistor offset button will bring you to the following page. The temp offset fields can be used to calibrate the temperature on any individual thermistor. The number of temp offset fields are determined by the probe type. The return arrow will bring you back to the previous page. Use the next page button to advance to tank colors and orientation for the current tank you are programming. Pressing the select product color button is used to choose a color to distinguish the contents of each tank. Pressing the select tank profile is used to choose the tank orientation profile that will be shown on the inventory page. Horizontal, vertical, or oil-water separator. Please note, oil-water separator is a new feature to the Proteus controller. If selected, it uses a different set of alarm points. Press the Setup button to return to the Setup menu page. Press the Tank Alarm Settings button. Use the Next Tank button to select the oil-water separator tank, and then the Next Page button to get to page 2A. All options will bring up a numeric keypad for data entry. High oil, high and low liquid, and low water are all measurement points in inches gathered from the oil-water separator tank. Consult OMTEX technical support for use of invert height offset. Press the Setup button to return to the Setup menu page. Tank parameters, tank alarm settings, tank table, tank drop and other, tank colors and orientation are all part of one category and can be accessed directly from the Setup menu page. Pressing on the Sensor Control button will bring you to the following page. This screen appears if no sensors have been previously found and programmed. Verify sensors have been properly connected to the sensor bus and press the Press to Find New Sensors button. This action will search for new sensors. You will see this notification once new sensors have been found. Pressing the Sensor Setup button will bring you to the Sensor Parameter page. This screen appears if sensors have been previously found. Depending on the firmware version of the controller, you may need to perform the Find Sensors function for newly connected sensors. By default, Sensor 1 will be selected. Pressing the Next Sensor button will advance to the next sensor on the same sub-menu page. You can quickly jump to another sensor by pressing on the sensor number field. This will bring up a numeric keypad to change sensors. Sensor type and serial number are determined by the controller and cannot be changed. Enable, disable, used to enable or disable the corresponding sensor. Pressing the Delete Sensor button will remove the currently selected sensor. You will be prompted to confirm the delete process. Use the Next Page button to advance to sensor parameters for the current sensor you are programming. As previously noted, sensor type and serial number are determined by the controller and cannot be changed. Enable, disable is used to enable or disable the corresponding sensor. Pressing the location field will bring up a list of predetermined and typical sensor labels. The use of the label option, named Other, allows the user to type in a custom sensor label. Pressing the tank number or location number will bring up a numeric keypad. They can be used to link the sensor to a specific tank and/or a specific location. You can toggle between enable or disable on the print status to include the sensor status in the shift reports. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Sensor control and BX sensor parameters are part of one category and can be accessed directly from the Setup menu page. Pressing the Copy Tank Parameters button will bring you to the following page. This feature is used when multiple tanks of the same size are programmed and a large number of chart points have been set. Pressing the Select First Tank Number will toggle between available tanks to copy from. Pressing the Select Second Tank Number will toggle between available tanks to copy to. Press the Copy Parameters button to start the process. You will be prompted to confirm the copy. You will need to go back and readjust certain parameters, such as wire speed, product and water nulls, and any other small differences between the tanks. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the COMM Ports button will bring you to the following page. This page defaults to the RS-232 port. Using the COMM port arrow will toggle between the RS-232 and RS-485 ports, both are programmed independently. Baud rate, data bits, parity, and stop bits are programmed to match the remote device being communicated with. Pressing any of the buttons will toggle through the available options. COMM type is used to select which communications method or protocol is used. RS-232 options are remote and Modbus. RS-485 options are remote, Modbus, RD625 and RD7CTS. Remote security code, if enabled, will require the enable code to process any remote telnet commands, so they are accepted by the controller. Enabled, disabled, enables or disables the security code just described. Setup Modbus will bring you to the Modbus settings page. Note, the Save button must be pressed for any changes to take effect. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the Modbus button will bring you to the following page. A Modbus enable code is required to activate the program settings. Pressing the Modbus address or register offset button will bring up a numeric keypad for data entry. Reverse mode, when enabled, reverses high and low registers for certain PLCs. Refer to the Modbus programming manual for additional information. Pressing the Communication Setup button brings you to the COMM ports page. Pressing the Print Modbus map prints the current register range for enabled probes and sensors. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the Network Properties button will bring you to the following page. To enable the controller to acquire an IP address from a DHCP server, press the Obtain an IP address automatically checkmark box to enable it green. If the checkmark box is gray, you need to manually enter the static IP information. The MAC address is factory set and cannot be changed. The controller provides for 4 telnet ports. Factory settings can be changed as required. The port toggles between remote, Modbus RTU, and Modbus TCP options. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the Data Check Settings button will bring you to the following page. Data check is used in controllers equipped with an XB416DC and/or XB800DC interface board. These boards are associated with data stick and FilCheck wireless transmitters. Pressing the System ID or Inactive Alarm Time field will bring up a numeric keypad for data entry. System ID is the number value programmed into all the transmitters for the system. Only transmitters broadcasting this system ID will be used. Inactive alarm time is the amount of time from the last good transmission at which the transmitter will generate a timeout alarm. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Use the down arrow to go to page 2 of the Setup menu. Pressing the Interface Board Relays button will bring you to the following page. Proteus X models can program the MCU, XBRB8, and XB4IO, shown as plug-in cards. Proteus K models can program the MCU, XCR8, shown as an XBRB8 plug-in card. MCU, XBRB8, and XB4IO alarm events are programmed in the same manner, and pressing the appropriate icon will bring you to the following page. The line at the top of the page should display the selected item. Pressing the Program Events button will bring you to the following page. This screen lists all the currently programmed or empty events. Please note, the MCU can be programmed for a maximum of 30 events. The XBRB8 and XB4IO can be programmed for a maximum of 100 events. Use the up and down arrows to show the next set of events. You can edit an existing event or program an empty event by pressing on the event. The event parameter settings are displayed in the white field across the top of the page. Pressing the tank number, sensor number, or board number buttons under the increment S/tank number option will cycle through the available tanks, sensors, or system boards, and it will be displayed in the top line. The white box will show information about the selected item. The Select Event Type buttons are used to select the various alarm events available for the item selected. Use the More button to display the next set of options. The Select Relay or Email Recipient section allows you to designate which relay will be activated on the alarm condition or which recipient will be sent an email alert on the alarm condition. The MCU has 3 relay and 5 email selections. The XBRB8 has 8 relay selections. The XB4IO has 4 relay selections. Relay on and relay off fields are only used with high or low product or temperature point events. Contact Omtech's technical support of additional information on these settings. Note, you must press the Save Event button and will be prompted if you do not. Pressing the Previous or Next Event buttons will move you up and down the event list. Pressing the return arrow will bring you back to the event list screen. Pressing the Program Relay Input Modes button will bring you to the following page. The selected item, MCU, XBRB8, or XB4IO, will determine the number of relay and input options. Note, anytime you press the Save Mode Changes button, you will return to the previous screen. You may need to re-enter the screen to do additional changes. Each relay can be programmed to operate in one of 3 modes. Light mode is used to activate a remote annunciator light and will stay active as long as the alarm condition exists. This relay is triggered when a system test is performed. Horn mode is used to activate a horn on a remote annunciator. This relay will reset when the remote annunciator acknowledge switch is pressed. The horn is also triggered when a system test is performed. Relay mode is used as a standard relay and will stay active as long as the alarm condition exists. This relay is not triggered when a system test is performed. Pressing on the Change Mode relay will toggle the field through the 3 options. If any relay modes are changed, you must press the Save Mode Changes button. Pressing on the Change Mode IO number button will bring you to the following page. Pressing the Next Input button will advance to the next input number option. If the input mode had been changed, you will get prompted to either save or don't save. Pressing on the On and Off label fields will bring up a QWERTY keypad for data entry. These labels describe the condition that activated or deactivated the input. Pressing on the Change Mode IO button will toggle through 7 different input options. Local Acknowledge, Relay Follower, Input, System Acknowledge, Acknowledge Page Change Test, Inventory Runtime, and Runtime. Refer to the Proteus Input Modes programming document for the settings that can be enabled for that option. The tank number field is only used with the Inventory Runtime option for selecting which tank inventory will be monitored. All changes must be saved. Press the Save Mode Changes button to return to the previous screen. Fail-safe mode controls the state of the relays and how they will function upon a power loss. The MCU relays are normally open and factory defaulted to non-failsafe, which means the relay coils are de-energized when the system is powered up. Alarm conditions switch the state of the relay coil. The XBRB8 and XB4IO relays must be energized to achieve the normally open, normally closed relay contacts. These are factory defaulted to failsafe mode, which means the relays are energized on power up and will de-energize when power is lost. Again, alarm conditions switch the state of the relay coil. Wiring of the XBRB8 and/or XB4IO relay normally open or normally closed contacts is dependent upon the device being controlled and how you want it to operate upon a power loss. Pressing the Fail-Safe Mode button will toggle between the 2 options. Consult Omtech's technical support for additional information. Pressing the Setup button brings you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the Clear Logs button will bring you to the following page. From this page, it is possible to clear individual logs from the unit memory. This is useful after site startups as it clears out test data collected. Clearing logs will not delete the data that was written to the log file on the SD card. Pressing on the Log button will prompt you to confirm before deleting the log. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the Backup System Parameters button will prompt you to confirm the backup request and bring you to the following page. The backup process creates an image file for each installed system board, and it is stored on the unit's SD card. It will display a pass-fail status for each file, and you will be notified when complete. Pressing the return arrow button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the Restore System Parameters button will prompt you to confirm the restore request and bring you to the following page. This process restores an image file for each installed system board that was stored on the unit's SD card. It will display a pass-fail status for each file. When the restore process completes, the system will automatically reboot itself. Pressing the VLD Leak System Settings button will bring you to the following page. In order for the controller to run a VLD test, volumetric leak detection, it must be enabled here. Pressing the test time and well time fields will bring up a numeric keypad for data entry. The test level and enable/disable fields toggle between available options. Press the Next Page button to access the VLD Leak Tank Settings page to set VLD intervals for any available tanks. By default, Tank 1 will be selected. Pressing the Next Tank button will advance to the next tank on the same sub-menu page. You can quickly jump to another tank by pressing on the tank number field. This will bring up a numeric keypad to change tanks. Set the test start time. Note, remember that the test will wait on the dwell time duration programmed on the previous page before starting the actual test, and the tank will need to be idle, no delivery or disbursements, during the test time. Pressing the Set Interval button will allow you to select one of 4 options: daily, weekly, monthly, or disabled. Selecting disabled here will only prevent a VLD test from running on the selected tank. When the set interval is daily, the set date and set day are not required. When the set interval is weekly, only the set day is required. Pressing the Set Day button will allow you to select one of 7 options, being the days of the week. When the set interval is monthly, only the set date is required. Pressing the Set Date button will bring up a numeric keypad for data entry. Press the Next Tank button to set VLD for other available tanks. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. VLD Leak System Settings and VLD Leak Tank Settings are part of one category and can be accessed directly from the Setup menu page. Pressing the CITLD Leak System Settings button will bring you to the following page. A CITLD enable code is required to perform CITLD testing, continuous in-tank leak detection. Pressing the CITLD enable code field will bring up a QWERTY keypad for data entry. Pressing the Auto Print enabled field will enable or disable the auto print option. When enabled, auto printing can be set for either weekly or monthly printouts. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the Print System Parameters button will prompt you to confirm the printout request. The unit will print out a complete list of all stored system parameters. Pressing the Email Account button will bring you to the following page. Pressing on any of these fields will bring up a QWERTY or numeric keypad for data entry. These settings are normally provided by an email administrator on a company-based email server. Some internet emails can be used. Consult Omtech's technical support for additional information. If the email server requires authentication, press on the checkmark box to enable, it will appear green. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. Pressing the Email Setup button will bring you to the following page. Pressing on any of these fields will bring up a QWERTY keypad for data entry. Up to 5 email addresses or mobile numbers can be programmed. Pressing the Set Email Events button will bring you to the following page. By default, email address 1 will be selected. Pressing the Next Address button will advance to the next email address. Pressing on the Delivery Reports, Status Reports, Alarms, or Inputs will enable that report to be emailed to the selected email address. Pressing the Set Alarms Events will bring you back to the MCU Events screen, where you can set individual event alarms to a specific email address. Pressing the Setup button will bring you back to the Setup menu page. When all system parameters have been entered or edited, pressing the Home button will exit Setup mode and restart the system to initiate the changes. This completes the basic programming of a Proteus controller.